Uh, so imagine giving your neighbor like the absolute most foolproof, rigorously logical advice ever, and then having to just stand there and watch as it completely ruins his life.
Oh, man. Yeah, that is a uniquely devastating feeling, mostly because, you didn't just give bad advice. You gave what literally any rational person would consider the smartest possible move.
Exactly. And that scenario is actually the perfect gateway into what we are unpacking today.
Hmm.
So welcome to our deep dive. We are stripping down the mechanics of game theory.
Right. The invisible math running basically everything from local toy shops to Google's billion-dollar empire.
Yeah, we're going to unpack exactly why the quote-unquote smartest move is usually a massive trap. So, okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you are indeed the sharpest person in your neighborhood. Everyone comes to you for advice. And your neighbor is a local shopkeeper.
Yeah.
He's got a strategically located toy shop, but he is under an immense amount of pressure. Like, he has heavy business debts, he has a daughter's wedding to pay for, and he desperately needs a windfall.
All right, so the stakes couldn't be higher for him. This isn't just about uh, maximizing a quarterly profit or something. This is a life-changing influx of cash that he needs to secure.
Exactly. And his golden opportunity arrives. A massive fair is setting up right next to his store. It's going to draw colossal crowds. And because of this prime foot traffic, several major national toy companies contact him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they all want to rent space on his shelves during the fair, and they are willing to pay big money. So he comes to you panicking, asking how to handle it, and you tell him, look, this is basic economics. Tell them to bid against each other, hold a secret auction. Whoever offers most money gets the spot.
I mean, it sounds utterly flawless. It is literally the bedrock of capitalism.
Yeah.
Just let the free market decide the value.
Right. So he follows your advice. He holds the auction. He gives the space to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
And the results are incredibly disappointing. He earns way, way less than he expected. He barely makes a dent in his debts. So I have to push back on this right away. If I have 3 people who want to buy my used car, getting them into a bidding war seems like a complete no-brainer. It drives the price up. Why is this seemingly perfect strategy just crash and burn for the toy shop?
Well, it crashes because a corporate lease is fundamentally different from like a casual car sale.
Mhm.
In business, you run right into a mathematical wall called the break-even point.
Okay.
Every single corporate player knows their exact margin. So if a toy executive calculates that this shelf space will generate exactly $50,000 in profit for their company, they absolutely cannot afford to bid $51,000.
Right.
It is a hard ceiling.
Okay, I get that they won't overpay, but if the space is worth $50,000 to them, why wouldn't they just bid, say, $49,000 to guarantee they win the spot and still make a tiny profit?
Oh, it's actually a bit darker than that. What's fascinating here, they won't even bid $49,000 because the structure of a secret auction actively incentivizes them to lie.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Put yourself in the shoes of that executive. Let's say there are 3 companies bidding, right? Company A values the space at $50,000, Company B at $40,000, and Company C at $30,000. If you ask them all for a blind bid, human psychology dictates they will all massively underbid.
Just because they want to capture the difference as profit.
Precisely. The executive at Company A thinks, okay, if I bid my true maximum of $50,000, I win the spot, but I make 0 profit. The whole endeavor is just pointless. But if I secretly bid $30,000 and the others happen to bid $20,000, I win the spot and I walk away with a massive $20,000 gain.
Wow.
Every single company does this exact same mental calculation.
That is wild. So by trying to pit them against each other with a traditional auction, you essentially invited them all to legally scam your neighbor out of the true value of his space.
Yeah, exactly.
You basically engineered a system where dishonesty is the most profitable move.
You did. And to understand why those companies lied so predictably, we really have to look at the fundamental science of how people interact when their success depends entirely on what someone else does.
Right.
Game theory is a field so profound that its practitioners have actually been awarded 6 Nobel Prizes. At its core, it maps the mathematics of trust.
Okay, so let's apply that math to a situation where you have 0 leverage. Like imagine you, the listener, live in a small apartment. You spent 2 years grinding, building a small business, making beautiful hand-stitched leather bags.
Okay?
You sell them for maybe $100 each. But business is agonizingly slow. Maybe you sell 3 bags a month.
Yeah.
Your family is practically begging you to give up and just get a real job.
So the pressure is mounting, the bank account is dwindling, you're desperate for a win.
Exactly. Then your phone buzzes. A WhatsApp message from a stranger named Joe. Joe says he's opening a luxury boutique in the Dubai Mall and wants to order 500 bags. Yeah, that is a $50,000 order. Your heart stops. This pays off your loans. It validates your 2 years of struggling. It changes everything. But then Joe drops the catch. He wants you to ship all 500 bags to Dubai first, and he promises he'll wire the money the exact moment they arrive.
Oh, no. Every alarm bell in your nervous system should be absolutely deafening right now.
Red flags everywhere. If you send the bags and he ghosts you, you lose your materials, your shipping costs, your entire 2-year investment. You are completely ruined. So you counter. You ask Joe for a 50% advance to cover materials, but Joe refuses.
Right.
And the terrible thing is, Joe's logic makes perfect sense. He says, if I wire you $25,000 and you send me a box of rocks or nothing at all, I'm the one getting scammed by a stranger on the internet.
Yeah, this is a classic formulation of what mathematicians call the trust game, which is a close relative of the famous prisoner's dilemma. And the mechanics of this interaction dictate that there are really only a few ways this plays out.
Right, let's map it out. If I send the bags and he sends the money, great. Win-win. We both get rich.
But what if you act in good faith, you send the bags, and he simply blocks your number?
I'm ruined. 2 years of work just gone, so I demand the advance. If he actually pays it and I decide to ghost him...
Then you win big, and Joe is the one who is financially ruined.
And if we both just stare at each other suspiciously, refusing to budge, no deal. Nobody gets anything.
Now, if you were to ask John Nash, the brilliant Nobel-winning mathematician whose life inspired the movie A Beautiful Mind, what you should do in this exact scenario, his answer would be flawless, cold, and entirely depressing.
Oh, boy.
He would say, if this is a one-time transaction and you have no guaranteed future interaction with Joe, do not trust him. Do not ship those bags.
Which brings us to his famous concept, the Nash equilibrium. But how does that actually work in practice, like functionally?
Think of it like being stuck in a massive traffic jam on the highway. If any one driver swerves onto the shoulder, they might get ahead temporarily. But if everyone acts purely out of their own selfish interest and swerves onto the shoulder, the entire road gridlocks completely.
Right.
The Nash equilibrium is that miserable standstill. It's the point where no single person can change their strategy without making things worse for themselves. In your case with Joe, if you don't send the bags, you physically cannot be cheated. If Joe doesn't send the advance, he cannot be cheated. You both protect yourselves perfectly. The result is a total standstill. No deal.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If perfect rationality leads to a standstill, then being perfectly logical actually makes everyone poorer.
Yes.
I don't get my $50,000. Joe doesn't get his inventory for the Dubai Mall. Isn't that a massive flaw in human logic? We've essentially engineered a mathematical rationale for mutual failure.
It absolutely looks like a flaw. And for a long time, economists considered this the grim end of the story. The accepted wisdom was that in a world without guaranteed trust, being smart meant being intensely paranoid. Rationality literally equaled poverty.
Wow.
But that entire bleak worldview rested on one critical artificial constraint, the idea that this is a quote-unquote one-time deal.
Right. Nash's math assumes I never see Joe again, but life doesn't happen in a vacuum. We interact with the same suppliers, the same coworkers, the same neighbors every single day. Life happens in continuous loops. Did anyone try to calculate what happens when there's a tomorrow?
Yes, and that exact question fundamentally changed the mathematical landscape. In 1979, a professor at the University of Michigan named Robert Axelrod didn't just write a theoretical paper about this. He threw down a gauntlet.
Okay.
He wanted to know, if there is a massive reward for cheating someone today, but you have to face that exact same person tomorrow, what is actually the smartest behavior?
And he hosted a global tournament to find out, right? He reached out to the absolute brightest minds on Earth, economists from Princeton, mathematicians from Stanford and Oxford, and asked them to submit a computer strategy on a floppy disk.
Classic 1970s.
Yeah, exactly. These programs would play out these trust games against each other over thousands of rounds. 14 world-class experts submitted their strategies. Some of these programs were incredibly complex, featuring over 100 lines of code full of traps, deceptions, and exploitative logic. But after 36,400 moves, the winner was a tiny 4-line program called Tit for Tat.
It absolutely shocked the academic world. I mean, Axelrod himself was so skeptical that he assumed it must be a statistical anomaly. So he did something audacious. He published the exact code of Tit for Tat, told the whole world exactly how it operated, and challenged everyone to build a program specifically designed to do stat. He hosted a second tournament.
This time, 62 strategies were submitted. People built literal, targeted tit-for-tat killers, and tit-for-tat won again. So what is this unstoppable code? Like, how does it actually work?
The mechanics are embarrassingly simple. In the very first round of interaction, tit for tat always cooperates. It opens by being nice. Then, in every single subsequent round, it simply looks at what the opponent did in the previous round and mimics it exactly. If the opponent was nice, tit for tat is nice back. If the opponent cheated, tit for tat cheats back immediately on the very next move.
It's like a pure mirror.
Exactly.
It's not trying to outsmart you, it's just reflecting your own behavior back at you. But why does a simple mirror beat 100 lines of exploitative Machiavellian genius code?
Because the exploitative code eventually destroys the environments it needs to thrive. Think about it. A complex program might trick an opponent for a few rounds, scoring big points. But eventually, the opponent learns to stop trusting it. Bridges are burned.
Right, they catch on.
Exactly. The exploitative program ends up isolated in a no-deal gridlock. Tit for tat, on the other hand, creates a mathematically stable environment. By analyzing these massive tournaments, Axelrod realized tit for tat's victory wasn't just a coding trick. It revealed a literal four-pillar blueprint for human success.
Okay, let's break down those 4 pillars because we can directly apply these to our own lives. Pillar number 1, be nice. This means never cheat first. The top-performing strategies in Axelrod's tournaments always opened with cooperation. Being an exploitative player might get you a quick win today, but long-term, it destroys the relationships you need to build actual wealth.
Right. And pillar 2 is equally crucial. Retaliate. You absolutely cannot be a doormat. If someone cheats you, you must strike back in the very next move without hesitation.
Which is hard for some people.
It is, but if you let people exploit you without consequence, they will just keep doing it. Immediate retaliation sends a clear mathematical signal to the other party. Cheating me is not profitable for you.
Okay, but Rule 3, forgive, seems like the point where human biology completely fights the math. The rule says once you've retaliated and leveled the score, you have to genuinely go back to cooperating. But we naturally hold grudges. If a vendor scams me, my instinct is to never ever work with them again. It takes immense mathematical discipline to just let go of the past like that.
It does fight our biology.
Yeah.
But if you hold that grudge, if you refuse to forgive and just keep retaliating indefinitely out of spite, you enter a death spiral. Both parties lose everything. You have to let it go once the point is made.
Wow.
And that brings us to pillar 4. Be clear. Your rules must be completely predictable. Ambiguity is the enemy of trust. If your opponent knows with absolute certainty that good behavior brings cooperation and bad behavior brings immediate punishment, they're mathematically incentivized to play fair.
Okay, but wait. Let me think about this. Tit for tat mimics exactly what the other person just did. What if I accidentally cheat? Let's say I fully intended to send my payment, but my bank flags the wire transfer and it gets delayed. Tit for tat sees that as a cheat, so it punishes me in the next round. Then my system sees I just got punished, so I feel betrayed and I retaliate. Don't you just end up in an endless war over a simple typo?
That is brilliant, and you've just hit on the system's one major vulnerability. Mathematicians call it the noise problem. In the real world, emails go to spam, wires get delayed, tone is misinterpreted over a text message, noise enters the system.
And because tit for tat is a pure mirror, 2 perfectly well-meaning players get locked in an endless death spiral of mutual retaliation over a complete misunderstanding.
Precisely. To fix this catastrophic flaw, game theorists developed a brilliant adjustment called forgiving tit for tat. The rules were exactly the same, but with one tiny crucial tweak. If someone cheats you, you give them a single free pass.
Okay.
You only retaliate if they cheat you twice in a row.
Oh, that's incredibly smart. It absorbs the noise. It basically builds in a shock absorber for human error.
Yeah. If we connect this to the bigger picture, that one free pass prevents accidental wars from spiraling out of control. It actually produces even better, significantly more profitable outcomes over the long run in messy, real-world environments.
Okay, so we are armed with this knowledge. We know how to mathematically incentivize honesty and cooperation using these 4 pillars. Let's take this right back to your neighbor, the toy shop owner who got lowballed by the corporate executives. How do we fix his auction? Because this exact mathematical logic is what Google used to build its empire.
Right. We fix his problem by changing the rules of the game so that honesty becomes the only profitable strategy. We do that using a system pioneered by another Nobel laureate, William Vickrey. It's called the Vickrey auction.
How does that change the dynamic?
In a Vickrey auction, the winner is still the person who bids the highest. But the genius part is the price they actually pay. They do not pay what they bid. They pay the amount offered by the second highest bidder.
This is exactly what Google does for its limited ad slots on search pages. Let me break down this Nike example because this completely blew my mind. Say Nike wants to buy a keyword ad, and they mathematically value that keyword at $50. In a normal auction, we establish they would lie and bid maybe $30 to try and save money.
Correct. They try to capture the surplus.
But in a Victory auction, lying makes absolutely no sense. If Nike bids their true maximum value of $50 and the next highest guy bids $30, Nike still only pays $30. They get the discount automatically. But if they try to be clever and underbid, say they bid $35, they don't save a single penny.
Nope.
If they win, they still pay $30. But by lying, they now run a massive risk that someone else bids $36 and steals the spot they genuinely valued at $50. Honesty becomes the only mathematically smart move.
Exactly.
Hold on, though. Let me push back here. If Nike is willing to pay $50 and Google only charges them $30, Google just left $20 on the table. Multiply that by billions of ads. Doesn't Google lose an astronomical amount of money by intentionally giving the winner a massive discount? How did they make billions of dollars by leaving money on the table?
It seems completely counterintuitive, doesn't it? But here is the brilliant mechanism at play. Because Google guarantees that you will never be overcharged, advertisers entirely stop holding back. Every single company bids their absolute true maximum value every single time. Over millions of micro-auctions happening every second, this absolute honesty drives the baseline of the second highest bid massively upward.
Oh.
Yeah. By giving up the short-term peak price, Google secures an exponentially higher overall volume and average price. They design an ecosystem where honesty itself is the most profitable path for everyone.
And the scale of the results is just staggering. By employing this exact strategy, Google's 2025 advertising revenue reached $294.7 billion. Just to put that incomprehensible number into perspective, that is enough money to entirely fund a major nation's space program for a decade.
It's unbelievable.
It's enough to literally hand every single family in New York City over $50,000 in cash. Or think of it this way. If you earned $100 every single second of every single day, it would take you over 93 years to reach that amount, all because they understood the mathematics of honesty.
It perfectly illustrates the core lesson of everything we've discussed today. True intelligence isn't about being clever in a vacuum. It's not about complex trickery or outsmarting the person across the table. Whether you're a shopkeeper dealing with toy companies, a leather worker negotiating with a luxury client in Dubai, or a tech giant organizing a global ad market, winning means understanding the equilibrium. You have to actively design the rules of the game so that cooperation and honesty are naturally rewarded.
It's about taking those 4 pillars: being nice, retaliating when crossed, forgiving quickly to absorb the noise, and being crystal clear out into your own daily life. You stop being the person trying to overcomplicate everything and getting burned, and you become the person who understands the underlying math of the room. You stop just playing the game and you start winning it.
And stepping back, that leads to a rather profound realization. If global economics, corporate auctions, and billions of dollars in computer algorithms all naturally evolve toward a state of forgiving tit for tat simply because it is mathematically superior, it raises an incredible question. Are our own human morals, our deep-seated concepts of fairness, justice, and forgiveness actually spiritual virtues? Or are they just the evolutionary result of cold, hard game theory running quietly in the background of our species for thousands of years?
Well, next time you give a friend advice, remember that. You might just be running an evolutionary algorithm. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden logic of our decisions. Go out there, absorb the noise, and we will see you next time.